Hey, good morning, guys. We're going to go ahead and start with 1.1 multiplication matrix notes. First, we're going to talk about the dimension check. So when multiplying matrices, the number of columns in the first matrix must match the number of rows in the second matrix. So you have to understand that it's rows by columns. Okay, so for this first example here, 2 by 3, it's 2 rows and 3 columns. And then 4 rows, 1 column, 11 rows, and 1 column. So what this means here, the number of the columns in the first matrix, so this one, must match the number of rows in the second matrix. So here's rows. So we would see if these would match. So it says, can we multiply matrices with the following dimensions? These have to be the same number. So 3 and 4, not the same number. So no. But we can try it again with this 1 and 11. Nope, that doesn't match either. And even if we did the 3 and the 11, that wouldn't work. So none of these are going to work. If we look at the matrix multiplication below, so you're taking this row and you're going to multiply it by each of the numbers in here. So I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to multiply it by the 0. And then I'll take the 1 and I'll multiply it by the 7. So we're taking the first row of the first matrix and the first column, and we're going to multiply each number. Okay, so 2 times 0, 1 times 7. So 2 times 0 is going to give me 0. 1 times 7 will give me 7. And 0 plus 7 will give me 7. Okay, so you're going to continue that. This first column, first row would be your first one, the start of your first column, first row. Okay, and then we're going to go with 2 times -1. So now we're multiplying it, the first row by the second column, and then 1 times -4. So 2 times -1 gives me a -2. 1 times -4 gives me a -4. -2 plus -4 would give me a -6, and that will be the start of these first row, second column. Okay, now we're doing the same thing, but now we're starting with the next row. 3 times 0, 5 times 7. So 3 times 0 will give me 0. 5 times 7 will give me 35. So 0 plus 35 will give me 35. And now this will be the start of our second row. And then we're doing the next one. So 3 times -1, 5 times -4. So 3 times -1 gives me a -3. 5 times -4 gives me a -20. And then we're going to add those together. -3 plus -20 will give me a -23. Okay, so first row, first column gives me that number. First row, second column gives me the first row, second column number. Second row, first column. So second row, first column gives me the 35. Second row, second column gives me the same second row, second column. Okay, so that is how you would get your matrix answer. We're going to go ahead and move on and do some examples here. So we're doing the same thing that we just did with both of these. You need to make sure that they match first. So this is a 2 by 2, and this is a 2 by 2. So we have to check that the column and the row matches. So yes, they do. That means it works. Okay, so I'm going to take the first row, first column. So I would do 2 times 5. 2 times 6 plus 5 times 5. And I'm going to add those together, and then I'm going to get my first answer. So 2 times 6, let me rewrite that. 2 times 6 gives me 12. 5 times 5 gives me 25. Add both of those together. 25 plus 12 gives me 37. Okay, and then we're going to do it again. Now I'm going to do first row, second column. Oh. Okay, so 2 times -5 plus 5 times 2. So you get -10. 5 times -2 is a positive 10, so that would give us 0. Okay, so I'm going to leave these actually here. And then we'll do second row. Okay, first column. So when I do that, it would be 3 times 6 plus 14 times 5. Okay, so 3 times 6 gives me 18. 14 times 5 will give me 70. Add those two together, I would get 88. Okay, now I'm going to do change colors. Okay, 3 and 14 and -5 and 2. So 3 times -5 plus 14 times 2. So 3 times -5 gives me a -15. And then 14 times 2 would give me 28. Gonna add those together. So -15 plus 28, or 28 minus 15, will give me 13. So let's write this out. This is first row, first column. $37. First row, second column, 0. Second row, first column, 88. And second row, second column, 13. And that would be your final answer. For the next one, we need to see if it matches. So we're doing a 2 by 2. And this is a 2 by 3 because we're doing rows by columns. Do these match? Yes, they do. So let's go ahead and do it out. So we're going to have to do a little more work this time. We're doing first row, first column. So 6 times 0 plus -5 times -5. 6 times 0 would give me 0. -5 times -5 would give me 25. So 0 plus 25 gives me 25. I'm just going to go ahead and write out the answer up here. Okay, so my first one is 25. Now I'm doing first row, second column. So 6 times negative 2 plus negative 5 times 11. So 6 times negative 2 gives me negative 12. 5 times 11, negative 5 times 11 gives me a negative 55. So negative 12 plus negative 55. Add those two together. 55 plus 12 will give me a negative 67. That's still my first row, second column. Okay, now we're moving on to third row. 6 times 3 plus negative 5 times 4. So I get 18 plus negative 5 times 4 gives me a negative 20. If I add those two together, negative 20 plus 18, it's going to give me a negative 2. So that is my first row, third column. Now we're done with that one, so we're going to move on to the second row. First column. So 5 times 0 plus 2 times negative 5. So 5 times 0 gives me 0. 2 times negative 5 gives me negative 10. Negative 10 plus 0 gives me negative 10. Okay, let's do second row, second column. So 5 times negative 2 plus 2 times 11. So 5 times negative 2 gives me negative 10. 2 times 11 gives me 22. So 22 minus 10 is going to give me 12. So that is my second row, second column. Now I'm doing my last column. So second row, last column. We're doing 5 times 3. 5 times 3 will get you 15. Plus 2 times 4 will get you 8. So 15 plus 8 will give you 23. And there it is, your final one. So it'd be a 2 by 3. All right. Some ones we need to check out now, multiplying the following matrices. So here we have 3 rows by 1 column. And for D, we have 1 row, 2 columns. So do these work? Yes, they do. So we're going to go ahead and multiply those out. So what you would do here is you would take 1 and you would multiply it by 5. So 1 by 5 would give you, 1 times 5 would give you your answer of 5. Okay, now I'm going to take my 1 and multiply it by 3, which is 3. Then I'm going to do 2 and multiply it by each one. So 2 times 5 gives me 10. And 2 times 3 gives me 6. Okay, now I'm going to do the last one, negative 4, and I'm going to do row 1 and 2. So negative 4 times 5 gives me a negative 20. And negative 4 times 3 gives me a negative 12. Okay, I didn't have to do any subtraction because it was just 1 by 1s that I was working with. Make sure that's a 5. And that would be your answer for that one. So multiply these following matrices. So let's see what we have here. We have a 2 by 2. And then we have a 3 by 2. Ooh. So do these match? Does my column in my first one and my row in my second one match? Nope. So you would just put not possible. Make sure that you check this first every single time. Okay, now here we have 1 row and 3 columns. So 1 by 3. And here I have 3 columns by 2, or 3 rows by 2 columns. Do my columns and my rows match here? Yes, they do. Okay. All right, so we can go ahead and do this one. So I'm going to start with my first row, just my only row here, and multiply it by my first column. So I would do 1 times 1. Okay, remember I have to add all of these together to get my first row, first column answer. So I would do 1 times 1 plus 2 times 7 plus negative 3 times 6. Okay, so 1 times 1 gives me 1, 2 times 7 gives me 14, and negative 3 times 6 gives me a negative 18. I'm going to add all these together. So 1 plus 14 gives me 15. Minus 18 would give me a negative 3. So that is my first row, first column. Okay, now I'm going to do the first row, second column. So I would do 1 times negative 4 plus 2 times 2 plus negative 3 times negative 8. 1 times negative 4 gives me negative 4. 2 times 2 gives me 4, so automatically those cancel out. And then negative 3 times a negative 8 is going to give me a positive 24, which will be my answer since my 4's canceled out. And it's going to be my first row, second column. And you don't have to do anything else. So there's your answer, okay? If you guys have any questions, please make sure that you're reaching out. If you don't, have a great day. Make sure you're joining those Google Meets.